Ready.
Have you weighed in?
I have weighed in.
Okay.
Yeah. It's Glasgow summertime and you're watching CVXX. Welcome.
You've chosen to stay indoors and watch CVXX unless you're watching it on your phone.
Or unless you're listening to it in some audio form. It's CVXX episode 3. Welcome back, everyone. And we are delighted to see you all back for part 2 of 1985. We're still in 1985, Ryan.
It's part 2.
My
Could
God.
there be a part 3?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't know about that. Well, we're going to cover quite a lot today, so let's see how we're getting on. Now, I'm not going to talk about Monty on the Run. I said that last time, so that is not going to happen. So let's
not on the cards that we're going to be talking about that at all.
It is not in my plans that we're going to be talking about the Commodore 64 game Monty on the Run, which I think is one of the best platformers of all time. Still stands up, still stacks up well. When Monty explodes, when he hits a baddie, when he dies,
that's the high point.
Or when I wouldn't say it's the high point. The music is the high point, but when
that's
Monty,
the cum shot.
First of all, Monty is a mole. First thing, Monty Mole.
Oh, that's why he's called.
Yeah, and he's on the run because he was. I can't actually remember why he was on the run. Was it something to do? I think it was something to do with trying to bomb Thatcher because he was obviously in the Ra. Ryan, 1985.
Wayne Sleep is saying in this magazine here that he'd like to be tall enough to see over the bar.
You're joking. Wayne Sleep, of course, was the ballet dancer who was often on TV when we were wee guys in 1985. And just to remind the audience, because obviously there's a lot of young people watch the show, what age were you in 1985, Ryan?
I was 7 years of age.
And I was 8 years of age in 1985. My memories had kicked in. I was starting to remember stuff well. I remember I was a big fan of cornflakes.
With sugar on them?
Maybe sometimes sprinkle a wee bit of sugar, but even just cornflakes by itself sitting by the fire.
Good to know.
With my man and dad watching the two Ronnies, eating my cornflakes on a Sunday night was good for me. Ryan, was there any foods that you were a big fan of?
I like sugar puffs. I like crispy pancakes.
This is 1985 stuff,
yeah.
Crispy pancakes.
Have a look at the state of...
Would you say that crispy pancakes were something that you were a big fan of? Crispy pancakes was something that Ryan was a big fan of.
It was one thing. Crispy pancakes were just one thing I was a big fan of.
Welcome to... Sorry, that was for the guys. Some of the guys at Guft had heard that this is a joke we've made numerous times in the past as some
just
of the long term
in meetings and stuff like that is like an icebreaker.
The long term viewers of Consylvania will know that joke is one of our classics. That's your Del Boy falling through the bar, and the guys at Guft got in touch and they said two things that they wanted in this episode. Three things. They wanted me to weigh in. I'm 340 pounds. The second thing is that they wanted us to do the joke about Ryan as something Rice Krispies Ryan is a big fan of, and they wanted us to clarify that this is a V. They did intend this to be a V on the logo here. So
they said they're working on it. Guft AI is apparently on the job, so we're going to have something done about that in the near future, I think. That's a Guft guarantee.
Right, Ryan. So what were you saying something about 1985?
What I was saying is that was a good opportunity when you were saying that we're not going to be covering Monty on the Run, to say that we will also not be covering Back to the Future either, because that's 1985. So just saying what we're not covering on the show.
We will also not be covering Cocoon, which is a film about the old grandas that go into a swimming pool with the alien eggs, and then they're just mad one to do shagging and then jumping about.
This thing's all adverts.
What would you like to start talking about?
I would honestly like to jump right into this film that I've watched in 1985, because I feel like I've put myself in a bad position here, because I made a bit of an arse of myself and put myself forward to pick the film for this episode.
Ryan's choice.
And of all the films that I could have picked in 1985, you picked a sure thing last episode.
Yes, I did.
Of all the incredible content, let's call it, from 1985 that I could have chose, I chose Life Force, the film Life Force. Just because I felt drawn to it because I wasn't sure whether we'd seen it before or no.
Well, Life Force is a 1985 film directed by Toby Hooper, who directed one of my favourite movies of all time, the best horror film ever made, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
How many years before Life Force is Texas Chainsaw Massacre? How much?
Sorry? As what movie?
Added some extra H's to the name.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre is 1974.
Right, so we're talking a whole decade of this guy's been getting the good stuff for Columbia, I think.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he's not quite as laser focused in his vision, I would say.
Why were you drawn to it? Were you drawn to Life Force because
It looked like it had a bit of everything. I mean, it does have a bit of everything, but only in the last 15 minutes.
were you drawn to it because a naked woman is the main villain in it? This is the kind of reason why Life Force has become a bit of a cult movie. Is that the villain who is an alien in it
I
is
didn't
a
even notice
naked
that
lady.
the heart attack spirit.
Sure. And the minute Ryan said, "Oh, I think we should watch Life Force. Maybe we should watch Life Force, Rob."
That's quite a good
I thought, you know the way he talks, the way he goes on. Maybe we should watch Life Force, Rob. It's nothing to do with a woman. I thought to myself, it fucking is to do with a woman.
It wasn't to do with a woman. So anyway, would you want me to read out what the brief summary of what the plot of this movie is? You've watched this, right, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely.
You've witnessed this.
Oh, I've watched it, right, don't
so
you worry
Life
about it.
Force, a race of space vampires arrive in London and infect the populace, beginning an apocalyptic apocalyptic
He's slagging
descent
off Toby Hooper.
into chaos. Right, that does happen, but it happens in the last 10 minutes of the film. It's 2 hours long.
Well, but this was interesting actually. See, when I queued it up to watch it, because I had to rent it for Amazon Prime, and when I queued it up to watch it, I was surprised at the length. So I had a wee search about that. Actually, the theatrical version was only about an hour and 40 minutes. So I don't know what's happened since then. They found an extra 17 minutes.
You've got to assume that most of the special effects they must have used everything that they had there, so none of that's been added. So it must have been conversations of men in rooms, of which there's quite a lot happening in this film.
Listen, we've said that this is a movie where the main villain is a naked 20-year-old lassie.
There's actually 3 right. I'll talk you through what happens at the start.
Yeah.
Obviously, to help you out. So a human spaceship full of humans is tracking Halley's Comet, which is flying close to there, so they want to have a good look at Halley's Comet. So they get close to Halley's Comet and they realise that there's a fucking alien ship inside of Halley's Comet. So even though they're using what looks like kind of modern day space technology, they're confident enough to get out of their spaceship and go into this alien spaceship, which is what they do, and they find 3 naked humanoids who look like humans, 1 female and 2 males. I don't remember if it's really explained what happens to the 2 males, but they take a back seat most of the time to the naked female because she's got boobs and a nice bum.
Yeah, she's played by Matilda May, and Lassie's performance is good.
She doesn't do anything.
Well, she does what she has to do, and it's so basically the thing that kind of struck me is that. See, when I would love to have seen what the concept art and stuff was for this film. I know it was based on a book, Space Vampires or something it was called. I just like the thought that they were coming up with sorts of concept art for monsters and getting concept artists, and then one day a guy in a meeting room went, "How about it's just a scuddy woman?" What about a hanger? No, just
the
what
plot
about
is like these aliens are like they can hypnotise you by being so sexy that you fucking can't handle it. To the point where you you'll shrivel up, they'll actually drain your soul out of your body.
your soul, or your life force.
Aye, they do use the word souls.
They do.
At the end, there's a big stream of blue in London. You've read the synopsis, so you know what happens in the last 5 minutes. But you can see all the souls, and they call them souls, going up into this spaceship. But the hour and 40 minutes before the last 10 minutes, back to the start, they're in the spaceship, right? And like the wire work straight away, like these guys in space, is like it's like something you see on Button Moon or something like that.
Can I just interject to say as well that this is the ugliest fucking male cast that I've ever
I
seen
don't
in
know who
any
any
film.
of them are, really. I've
Wait,
written somebody's name down.
Well,
Who
Peter
is he?
Firth's in it, right?
Aye. Oh, that's whose name I did write down because I don't like his face.
Easy.
I don't like how he never blinked through the whole film.
Was there any other guys you recognised in it?
Jean-Luc Picard was in it.
Picard is in it. And Picard, I was thinking Picard's in it, and there's a fucking woman cutting about with her clothes off. I was waiting for Picard to say, hold on, I've wrote this down in my file of facts. I can see your fanny.
Did you see his fake face then? When they cut to the special effects and Jean-Luc Picard's fake face?
Listen, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, right? But do you know what happens to Picard in this film? This is before he was Picard, so he was a Royal Shakespeare Company actor, right? Who was an I, Claudius, not one of the most respected actors in Britain.
Only a few years before this?
Yeah, one of the most respected actors in Britain. Do you want to hear what happened to Picard in this film? A guy calls him a bitch and then gets off with him. That's genuinely what happens.
One of these ugly bastards that are in this film, there's a main cast of like three middle-aged guys, 3 or 4 like middle-aged guys who mainly stand about in offices in different locations having conversations. But there's a scene where one of them finds a woman who they think is the alien, so he gives her a good slap a bit, and it is just a guy roughing up a woman in front of some other guys.
Aye.
As if this is some tried and tested technique for getting
Method
an alien to...
He's like, but she likes it. This is the thing. It's like kind of. Ryan Hasney also mentioned that when your life force gets sucked out of you, you turn into a big puppet.
A big rubber puppet.
They all.
Sometimes you can still move and walk about and stuff as a big rubber puppet.
But it's like they don't look like shrunken down people or people with the stuff sucked out of them. They look like
No, they're their own things. You get
like Fraggle Rock.
It's no a version of you. You get turned into a rubber puppet, man.
You get turned into a puppet. And everybody, it's like, see if I'm an actor, right? I'm one, because like Ryan said, it's all these middle-aged men that are in it, right? And Toby Hooper must have sat in the room and went, I want you to be in this film. Or a producer went to these actors, I want you to be in this film. And then they went, what's this film about? And they went, well, it's about, there's this lassie and she's cutting about with her clothes off, and then just everybody's all getting off with each other. Because everybody's...
They can't handle it. Guys are
all kissing each other. No.
They can't handle it.
No, listen.
I've written down here, where is it? There's actually an accidental, quite artistic shot at 58 minutes. I mean, it's got a bit. I've written this film. It's a bit kind of mashed together. Like how they go, like an almost kind of cohesive narrative running through it with the amount of stuff that they've thrown at it is quite impressive. But
Aye.
this shot in particular at 58 minutes is just a lassie. She's changed bodies by this time, the alien. She can do that as well. She can just go into other bodies. And there's a shot of this new lassie who's like a horny redhead lassie that they've cast. Must have been fun casting this film. But it's just all standing in a field, and it's quite a nice shot.
It is quite a nice shot, and but there's a bit in it where the guy who initially found the alien folks, right? Sorry, I'm trying to be serious film critic here. The astronaut who initially found the alien life form, right, is able to have a dream and see a red-headed lassie getting off with an old man in a Volvo. Right? like he's watching a fucking episode of Fake Taxi or something in his mind. It's
I've never heard of it.
It's dynamite. Listen, it's dynamite. Ryan, did you notice?
How many notes have you got incidentally about this film? Because I have got like 24.
I've got a good few, right? Here's a note, and I'm sure you've noticed this as well as I did. Towards the end of the film, when a riot is happening in London and everything's all going bananas.
That's another thing about this film. See the amount of cast, the amount of actors in this, and the amount of background actors. It's mad.
Aye.
Carry on.
There's a lot of bodies in it, right? But see at the end of this movie, folks, right? When the end of this movie comes, and London is in disarray and everybody's rioting and jumping about and all that, right? There's a bus.
Oh yes.
Right? There's a bus, and the bus.
1:47, 12 seconds is what I've got it at.
The bus has on the side, this London bus has on the side, as everything's rioting, Glasgow is miles better.
And I had to go online and go and check where it was filmed to see it wasn't filmed up here, so they must have. What did they drive a bus? Didn't they? It's meant to be in London as well. It's the plot is about
It's London.
So how did that happen?
It's definitely London.
It must be cheaper to blow up a Glasgow bus than a London bus. It would be, probably.
Ryan, did you enjoy it? That's the question.
Oh no, I absolutely despised it. I really, this is why I've got so many notes about it, because I was watching it raging that this was my choice for 1985. That this was my opportunity, and I made a big deal about I should get a choice as well. I mean, it's equal. I should get a. He chose the last one in front of like the Guff producers and everything. I made a.
They made a big stink in front of Guff, and this is where we are. So now, also, I want to say is that some of the representatives that got, I mean, every one of the representatives at Guff had never seen Life Force, so they were like, "Oh, we'll watch that as well."
No,
right?
Recommended. You know what I mean? Years of experience. Fucking rubber men just cutting about instead of actors, and too many actors. It was shite. It was absolute shite.
So Guff, they're going to have an idea about you. Is there anything else you want to say about Life Force, mate, before we move on? It's worth a watch. I would say it's worth a watch. I would say it's worth a watch because it's such an odd film, right? It was a total flop at the box office.
No, I know.
It was hammered by Cocoon, actually, incidentally. Came out around about the same time as Cocoon and got hammered.
It's full of so many like dissolves and like what I look at is kind of like lazy. They don't really know what they're doing here. Like they're just trying to kind of like piece it together. It's not very artistically done. There's no the kind of vision that you see for somebody who makes something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like this is somebody who's like spoiled, and there's loads of fucking
a few years
ideas
before,
going on.
right? Toby Hooper directed Poltergeist, right? Poltergeist is just a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. But there is that chat, and there's that chat that Spielberg stepped in, and it was Spielberg that made Poltergeist. And I'm always, because I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I always defend Toby Hooper, right? I'm always like, no, come on, this is a guy. But see, when you watch Life Force, you think to yourself, I don't know if the guy directed Poltergeist. How beautiful and how exact and how precise and how real everything seems in Poltergeist. I don't know how the same guy could have helmed that.
The performances in Poltergeist compared to this, it's like some kind of like 6 at night ITV drama level performances.
No, listen. It wasn't.
So you're saying you enjoyed this?
I'm not saying I enjoyed it. I have more. I like watching kind of bad films. I'm happy to watch bad horror films any day of the week.
I want worse than this though.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, I found it quite funny and I found it quite amusing, and I was quite baffled at the fact that they'd went for this thing. Well, let's have this lassie walking around, and she has a beautiful body and all of that, and I get it. I get what they were trying to do, but it was. Yeah, I find it an interesting thing. I didn't like it. No, it was rotten. It was crap. But I thought it was an interesting thing. And
Can you mind that guy's name with the white hair that's in a lot of horror films?
Yeah, because he's the guy who's in Cthulhu Mansion.
Aye.
His name's Frank.
He sounded English in this.
He is English. He is English.
I always thought he
No,
was
he's definitely
Italian or
English. I
something.
can't remember his name. I'm so sorry.
I'll look it up.
It's because Cthulhu Mansion is Italian. Is the reason why you think he's Italian.
Yeah, I just assumed.
But that's a way into the 90s. We'll come to Cthulhu Mansion when we're in the 90s, and we're still in 1985. So let's move on. Let's have a quick word about Live Aid, because obviously Live Aid happened in 1985.
It's down in the news events. Yeah, I think it was in July, was it, of 1985?
Yes, summer 1985. Ryan, do you have any memories about Live Aid in particular?
Not really, no.
You don't
I
actually.
think it was a wee bit too. I must have been out or something, but very.
You weren't there and watching it. You don't remember being in watching it.
I don't. I'm afraid I don't. I'd be lying if I said I did.
Oh dear.
Because we've got a friend, haven't we, Jerry McLaughlin, who his dad has got VHS tapes that he taped on the day, like he taped the whole event. So
Wow,
they
really?
probably watched them like several times, and it'll be from. But I don't know.
I wonder if they would be worth money. I wonder if videotapes of the event would be worth money, because I don't know, is there a way of buying it these days? Anyway, that was Live Aid. Would you like to know about a wee game? 1985 was the year of the Commodore 64 for me. I was deep in Commodore 64, as I told you last time. I want to talk about a game called Terror Malinos, it was called.
Terror
Malinos.
I see.
Because obviously there's a holiday destination called Torremolinos, right? And that's kind of what this game is about. It was a Mastertronic text adventure.
So it's the mid-80s. Loads of people started going to Spain for their holidays.
Exactly.
Horror game tie-in.
Not really a horror game. I know it sounds like it's going to be a horror game, but it wasn't really a horror game. It was actually, Ryan, more of a slice of life type game. Torremolinos.
Like trying to get your pounds changed, don't they? Pesetas and all that. And
You're very close.
Here we are now. Here we are. In Torremolinos. This is from the instruction manual, actually, and this is some Spanish phrases that you could use while you're on your holidays. Just the kind of thing you don't get in games these days. And this is an adventure game about going on holiday to Spain with your family. I mean, that is exactly what it is. No big twists. You need to go and take some photographs while you're there. That's how you win the game. And leaving at the start here is always a challenge in any adventure game. It's always a challenge getting the adventure underway. So there's little Ken. Why is little Ken no getting packed? Why is little Ken no getting packed? Right, let's have a wee chat with little Ken. Let's tell him about the important things in life. I can't.
Torremolinos opens, and it was a game I used to play quite a lot, and I never got very far in it. But it opens when you're at home, and when you are getting ready to leave the house, and the taxi's coming to take you to the airport, and you need to find your passports and all that. And then you get to the airport, and you go on the plane, and it leads you through the holiday.
how am I controlling this game?
It's text adventure.
Oh, fuck me.
It's text adventure, so it's like look for passport, find, get passport, all that stuff, right? But I remember being quite fascinated by this game, and I was fascinated by this game because, Ryan, I remember only going on one holiday abroad when I was a kid.
Where was that?
To Spain. But that was when I was like maybe 4 or 5 or something, right? So it was like, even when I was 8 years old, it was something I couldn't remember very well. So weirdly, this game, Torremolinos, which was a kind of slice of life thing about an everyday British family event. You're going on holiday to Spain, it's chaos getting all the family together to go on holiday. Weirdly for me, it was like a kind of opportunity to experience a fantasy that I'd never... Yeah, it was like a... What do you think about that?
That's amazing.
I thought that would be an interesting bit of working class, boy, like salty earth. Because I know, right, people watch
Also
this.
shows you how like technology is like infiltrating like our everyday lives. That you're able to create a memory like that just using like artificial means. Like you didn't actually go on holiday to Torremolinos. You just played a C64 game, but you basically felt like you did.
No, I'm not saying that I felt I went on holiday. I was mainly wanting to highlight this because I know that the viewers consider me a celebrity or a famous person. And I think it's important to remind you all that I come from working class roots. I'm a working class guy, and I just feel like there'll be a reaction out there. People will be saying, he never went on his holidays very often when he was a wee guy, you know, and look what he's done for himself. I just thought it was worth bringing up.
Right. You did bring it up quite a lot as well. I'm not sure that this bit of news for 1985 raises more questions than it answers, but on January 16th, Playboy announced the end of stapling the centrefolds at its magazine.
Right, so they would ruin the
it would do like damage to the potentially quite an important area.
So how did they stick it in? I don't understand how they stuck it in.
I don't really know. That's what I'm thinking. How's it no for it?
See, instead of getting these magazines that you bring in, your whatever this is, Sunday magazine, Music World Sunday, Crash magazine, you should have got a Playboy in so we could have checked that.
Ringo's a granddad.
Let's get a shot of this. Can we get a shot of this, by the way? Ringo as a granddad. Now think about this.
Is that on the right? Is that like his auntie?
That's his son.
Son?
And that's his baby. Son. His son's baby. The baby, the son.
So got one of them looking at the camera.
It's mad to think that's one of the Beatles there, right? That's one of the Beatles' son. Now, his son has obviously penetrated a woman, right? He's penetrated a woman and he's had sexual intercourse with him, right? And the sperm he's fired his sperm into the woman's urethra and
Rab,
created a...
You're acting Rab Little Wee didn't go on this Guff seminar this month about you talking about this.
This baby is now 40 years old. Can you think about that? So the baby that's on that magazine is now a 40-year-old man or a woman, whatever it is.
Or did.
We'll have to check that after the fact. I hope we don't get sued by the estate of Ringo Starkey now, Richard Starkey of Ringo Starr fame. What was Ringo Starr up to in 1985? Probably fucking getting ready to do Thomas the Tank Engine or something. Was that 1985?
Getting ready? What do you mean, like doing squats and practicing his voice?
He's got to get himself prepped for it. Listen, speaking of Thomas...
Talking into a mic.
Speaking of Thomas the Tank Engine, guys, Did you know there's another kids show that started in 1985? It's called One. I would like to introduce Mr. One Mr. by the name of Mr. Pob.
Really?
Mr. Pob. Pob came alive. Pob was a Channel 4 1980. There we go. Let's get a shot of Ryan here. That's Ryan Dane Pob. Take your specs off. Right, that's right. There's Bob. There he is. There's Bob. There's Bob here. There's Bob. No. Sue Pollard would come and visit.
Do you have any way of describing that?
Sue
for
Pollard
the
would do
listeners?
that face. No, take it off. For the listeners, you want to see this. It looks like an absolute fucking. Sue Pollard used to visit that cunt and he would spit all over the place.
Every week? I thought it was different guests, was it not?
Um,
So that'll be on Channel 4. I remember at Channel 4 at lunchtime. That's when I saw Pob.
yeah, well, I can't remember really when it was on. Pob was a weird one. I felt that Pob had a wee bit of a kind of folk horror vibe about it. You know, like
It was cursed.
like a telly show that Ari Aster would, the man who did Midsummer, would have created, and I just didn't ever want to watch it. And also, during that time, there was a good chance that all the guests on it were also paedophiles as well.
Aye,
So-
that's telly though, isn't it?
It wasn't for me, Pob. I'll tell you that.
15th of August 1985, the speedboat Virgin Atlantic Challenger has capsized in heavy seas off the southwest of England, scuppering Richard Branson's attempt at the fastest ever Atlantic crossing.
Because Richard Branson, of course, through the 80s, as kids growing up in the 80s, we remember Richard Branson was attempting a whole load of stuff, wasn't he? He was attempting to do loads of things, balloons, speedboats.
Bored, wasn't it?
He was, I mean, he's made so much
Compensating
money.
as well for having a weird face.
He's made so much money that he was just trying
You know, in
to.
space now, is he now living in space?
No, he's another one of these ones that has a rocket, didn't he? But I don't think he did anything with his rocket.
Just
Right, listen, you. What games were you playing in 1985?
right then, I've got a selection when I get to my games.
We'll just wait for Ryan to check his file of facts here.
How is your file of facts?
My file of facts is doing good. It's filling up fast. I've got lots of names and addresses in it of people, quite a lot of famous people's names and addresses as well. I've got, do you remember Chico, who was in the X Factor? I think it was the X Factor or Pop Idol, Chico time.
Chico time.
I've got Chico in here.
You have
and
to go.
I've got the guy that played Trevor Jordache in Brookside in here.
Is he still alive?
I don't know. I've no rang him. And I've also got no Bella Emberg because she is dead, right? But the guy who now lives in Bella Emberg's house, I've got his phone number as well. And let me tell you, that house is fucking stinking. Sorry, Ryan, carry on. What games were you
Have
playing?
you got poo scoops for gladiators?
I mean, that's bananas to me. You want to talk about? Well, we can't talk about two scoops yet because again, that's the 1990s. And I want to apologise. I would like to just apologise to Guft Industries for how many times we've been warned not to do any. Well, weirdly, Guft Industries called it time slips. Don't do any time slips.
I remember the terms. I did the night class.
Right. Don't do any more time slips.
No
Right.
more
Let's
time
stay in
slips. Okay.
1985.
So we're looking for something 1985. We're looking for something that's on message UK. Let's try this. Let's try Jeff Cape's Strongman
Whoa.
on the ZX Spectrum.
On you go, Ryan.
First off, what is going to grab you about Jeff Cape's Strongman is the music, because the music has absolutely nothing to do with being a strongman or any. Well, that's not true. One of the tracks, because there is a good 4 or 5 different tracks used in this, but one of the tracks is like a kind of bastardised version of the Superman theme tune.
Right. Okay.
But most of them are like, what have we got? We've got Doodle Dandy, Yankee Doodle Dandy. There's a bit of Strauss music, the Blue Danube.
Oh,
Waltz,
aye,
you know,
aye.
It uses that for some fucking reason. Roll Out the Barrel, which makes sense because he's carrying a barrel.
He's barrel chested as well. He's got
True,
a barrel
we
chest.
could let that one slide as well. But the music choices are kind of bizarre and really bizarre. But it gives you something to distract you for the game, which is.
What's this? Depop again. Depop one more time.
He does a training session.
Ryan,
That's-
Depop one more time. Last time, I promise I won't ask at any other point in this episode.
Ready?
Go. There he is. That's Bob. There he is. Have you got footage of Jeff Cape Strongman?
You bet. I'll turn the music then. Even at a low level, the music is a little bit penetrating and a little bit unbearable, but this is the best tune that I'm playing. What you need to do in this bit is you need to distribute all your energy into your muscles kind of equally, because when you're pulling that truck, I think that's a truck, you have to circulate around all your muscles, using a wee bit of energy for each muscle to pull this game is unbelievably crap. The combination of having to do this thing, and the controls are terrible as well, but who came up with this idea, I don't know. I'm just making me talk a wee bit like Donald Trump for some reason. The music, even though this is the best type of music, the music is going right through me. It's giving me some kind of static 80s fucking fever or something that it doesn't, it just doesn't stop, and there's no fun in this game. They didn't put any fun in it. To be able to sleep at night now, I'm going to have to try and tell myself that Jeff, Jeffrey Capes, the strongest man who ever lived, had nothing to do with this fucking rubbish. This is a bad advert for games. If you think the Easter's coming up and you need to get a game for your granddad, don't get him Jeff Capes Strongman. It is only $2.49, but just get him 10 fags instead. There's loads of different sections in it, loads of different sheets in Jeff Capes Strongman. You've got Strongman. There's a good training session where you're skipping a car. You're lifting a car.
Skipping it?
Skipping it.
Oh, that's called skipping it, aye.
And there's a good bit where you're chopping a bit of wood, but that one's really bizarre because I'll show you. It's a massive bit of wood that I don't know how old this tree is, but it must be like 1,000 years old. But you've got this axe, but the axe is like that size and the log's like that size, and you have to try and chop your way all the way through this massive log. It's not good. It's not good.
Jeff Capes. Wow, he was about for a while, wasn't he? And then he wasn't.
It was. Do you remember him on Supergran? I can remember him being on Supergran. I think Supergran put him in some kind of lock or something.
I just hope you've not done a time slip again there, is all I've got to say.
That's got to be Supergran, surely.
Yeah, I think I might be 85, 84, 85. Listen, I want to talk about, if you're talking about music, right, when it comes to computer games of 1985, there is a game that I loved, and I played a lot of Mastertronic games. This is another Mastertronic Commodore 64 game, and the music is by the one and only. And let's raise a little liquor. Let's raise a little liquor for Rob Hubbard, Mr. Rob Hubbard, the boy,
one of the best,
who did the music for Monty on the Run. Monty on the Run, we're not going to talk about it today, but was this amazing platformer game.
It's the second time we're not talking.
You were a mole who was on the run for crimes committed against society, and he was trying to board a boat and make his escape to Europe, like a lot of people did in the 1980s. This was a thing people did in the 80s.
Monty's quite a posh name for a...
Well, it's all social commentary though, because even like when you think about
see, I'm forgetting that everything's saying something in that game. That's what I'm forgetting.
Well, this is it. I feel like everything. There was a lot of games in the 1980s that were saying a lot of things about stuff. Like all these bedroom coders had stuff to say. Anyway, Master of Magic is the game I'm talking about. Commodore 64. Rob Hubbard did the music. Rob Hubbard didn't compose the music. It was an arrangement of a piece of music called Shibboleth, I think, Shibboleth, Shibboleth, by a band called Synergy. Now, I'm not just saying this, I've listened to the original version of this track, and Rob Hubbard's Commodore 64 version of this, arrangement of this, is better. The music is amazing in Master of Magic. Master of Magic is, well, we're going to cut to some footage, but it's this fantastic dungeon exploring game that is so atmospheric and that I absolutely adored. So there you go. That's Master of Magic, Ryan. A wee look at Master of Magic there.
Are you still finding yourself leaning towards looking at C64 stuff?
Oh, I mean, of course, because I've got to talk about stuff that touches my heart. I'm going to try and dip a wee bit more into Spectrum in 1986 for a specific reason.
I did a curious thing the other day where I was playing some Board of the Rings. Do you remember that game?
The parody Lord of the Rings text.
What they did, lads, is get this, and about three lassies, lads and about three lassies. What they did is they took the kind of lore of Lord of the Rings and they changed it to Board of the Rings, and changing the title of that is that's what they've done throughout the game as well, as they've just kind of taken some vowels and they've swapped them out, and that's how you do comedy, and it's a text adventure.
It's essentially British comedy described. 1985, by the way, also, just quick mention, The Young Ones was on in 1985.
Just started in 1985.
Oh, I'm not sure about that actually. I wish you had to put me on the spot there because I'm not allowed to use my data slate. Guft have said no data slates at all, and so I'm stuck with my file of facts.
We've just learned are actually lead lined for some reason. Because we knew this is deep underground that we make this with Guft Industries, but we never realised this is lead lined as well.
So we cannot get any information in or out, or any messages in or out at the minute, but I will say that I think in 1985 The Young Ones was on the telly.
On the TV. My point about bringing Board of the Rings up was that the curious thing I did was that I realised that I was playing a 128K version of the game, and I found myself going, oh no, I'll have to go back and find the 48K version.
Wow, why was that? That's
because
fascinating.
48K is what I played for the majority. I did for a short period.
What was the difference?
Only graphics room. Well, capacity really. One
of the things I remember is obviously the Commodore 64 also had the Commodore 128 as well, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember the only real difference being in the Rocky Horror Picture Show computer game. The only one that I can really remember a specific. I can't remember. I never ever had a 128. I only had a 64.
What age are you in 1985?
Why are you saying it like that?
I'm not sure if we'll use this, but what age are you in 1985? 8 years old?
8 years old.
Have you looked at any porno games yet?
Had I looked at, I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure what year Sam Fox Strip Poker would have been.
When you're talking about this.
I'm not sure what year Sam Fox Strip Poker would have been. Right. But I definitely played Sam Fox Strip Poker.
85 seems a bit right for.
But I never managed to. Don't use this. I never managed to see or exposed breasts. Right. You have to play cards.
I know, you need to be good at cards.
You need to be good at cards, and then if you win at cards, then eventually our breasts will come out.
I know.
And I never saw them, but it was alright because I saw them in the paper every day anyway.
No.
When I was a wee guy, I don't know if I've mentioned this yet on the show, but when I was a wee guy, I grew up in the house with like big sisters. My big brother kind of moved away to Aberdeen, and it was all big sisters in the house. And one day when I was a wee guy, and I think actually this is when I was like 5 or 6 or something, I made a den in the living room. Have I mentioned this? I made a den in the living room out of the cushions off the couch, and I was just in it for ages and all that. And then when my sisters was like, "What are you doing in there?" They came in and looked, and I'd put Page 3 girls up on all I'd draped them on the inside of the thing, so it was just boobs all in me. This is definitely a V. This is a V up here. CVXX.
We're supposed to be cutting down on the awkward silences.
No more awkward silences. Would you like to know what the top 50 TV shows? 20, let's say 20, the top 20 TV shows in the UK in 1985.
This is UK? I would absolutely love to know.
Right, here we go. So we're going to go through them, and Ryan, we're going to do this as a word association, no a word association, but more you say a sentence association. When I tell you the names of the shows, you should do in response is say a sentence.
Say one sentence.
Well, no necessarily, as many sentences as you like. So it's more a kind of just like saying things association.
Right. I'll try.
Number 20, In Sickness and in Health.
Cancelled.
Do you remember that? Alf Garnett?
Oh, you bet.
19 is A Low.
Also likely to get you cancelled, but family friendly as well. Love the policeman, eh? Pissing by your window. Remember him?
Good morning.
Actually, vowel replacement would seem to be really big in the 80s. Simpler times. Sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning. I was just pissing by your window.
Good morning. Because he was, but if anybody doesn't understand what we're talking about here, this was a French policeman, but the catch was he wasn't a French policeman. He was actually a British
He was
spy.
English.
He was an English spy.
In a French accent.
But he was in a kid-on French accent, right? So it was quite a new concept in comedy. It had never been done before. And he was like that. So one of his famous things he said was, see if you remember this, right? He would say, "Good morning. I was pissing by your window."
No, what Robert just said there was good morning. I was just passing by your window.
Yeah. And in Hello, we hear this, they were always looking for a painting. Do you remember the name of the painting, Ryan?
The Fallen Madonna with the something boobies.
The Fallen Madonna with the big boobies.
Boobies.
Listen, I'm freaking out here. Because Life Force is kind of about a fallen Madonna with the big boobies in it. How fucking weird is that? And we're talking about Samantha Fox, strip poker.
Big boobies were big in the 80s.
Big boobies were big in the 80s, but let me tell you something. See boobs.
Also, we're talking about being wee guys. Even when you're a wee guy, big boobs are brilliant. It's just good to be about. I run big boobs. Big.
Listen, you can see if you have a problem with this, by the way. See if any of you out there want to cancel me and Ryan for talking about big boobies, right? You cannot take a flying fuck to yourselves.
See,
and I'm not even talking to that lot,
right?
David Icke and all these
right,
people.
Let's get this out of the way as well, because some roasters have been talking about the transitions that they see sometimes in the episode, and they're saying that we're shape-shifting. And you know where that's coming from. You know where that noise is coming from. That lot.
Shape-shifting?
Aye.
Yeah, okay. Well, let me tell you something, David Icke, and all your...
It's a morph dissolve. I use it because I'm lazy and I've not got the time to edit this properly, because that fucking thing costs $2.5 a month.
$2.5 that guy paid. And if David Icke and your lot... David Icke can go like that, let's do a crowdfunder, get a load of money in so I can do another one of my 7-hour conferences in the fucking O2 Arena about how we... are not allowed to talk about big boobies. I'll talk about big boobies as much as I want because I'm a fucking 46-year-old man. I'm almost 47, and if me as a grown-ass man, 47 years old, wants to talk about big boobies, I'll fucking talk about them. You can cancel me if you want, because I'll tell you something. They're cracking.
There were a number of English football hooliganism and race riot incidents throughout 1985 in England.
That was a beautiful transition.
UEFA in the summer banned English teams from participating in European competition because of the hooliganism problems, which is really confusing considering how many big boobies there are going around in the 80s. You think everybody would be in a better mood.
But the English football fans were shocking in the 1980s. They were after heads.
Yeah, they had to be told to calm down. Somebody had to take them aside and go, lads, they fucking plastic patio seats are not free.
18 Bullseye.
18?
Yeah, number 18 in the charts of the top watched TV shows.
That's actually a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. I need a
Bullseye was a very popular show, Ryan.
Yeah, I know. I loved it. I love it.
Bullseye was a show presented by a man called Jim Bowen, who was a comedian.
I've got a sentence. I've had a lovely day, Jim.
There we go. That was what he used to say. Jim Bowen used to say that.
If you've made, I'd say, £150 plus, it gives you a dilemma because you're like, 150 quid. Do I risk this? Do I risk this for a speedboat?
It's a lot of
I've
money.
had a lovely day, Jim. I'm gonna hit the pub.
So that was it. That was Jim Bowen's catchphrase. I've had a lovely day, Jim. And Bullseye was a very popular show, and it was about playing darts. Big UK pastime, darts back in the day. Number 17 was also a game show, and it was called Name That Tune. Okay, do you remember Name That Tune?
I do.
You'd get people...
I remember it being kind of coffee stained and kind of nicotine stained, and that's what comes to mind.
You'd kind of get people like Lionel Blair on it and all that, right?
Aye, it's in their skin. That way of living is in their skin.
16 is a thing called The Practice, but I kind of have no recollection of what that is.
No.
15 is Only Fools and Horses, which seems quite low.
I'm sure that's in or around the most popular shows for as long as it is on telly.
Well, it's not its peak popularity yet.
No,
I would say it hits its...
Around the time that you're talking about where there's a scene where there's a character called Del Boy and a character called Trigger.
Del Boy is played by just so everybody knows, the lead actor of the sitcom The Queen's Bodyguard.
Yeah. and he goes at one point to lean into a bar, but I think like the bar's been removed or something for some reason. Like
No, what happens is
what?
What happens is, right, he goes to lean on the bar, right? He's talking to his mate.
Is it a bar, actually?
No, it is a bar.
Is it a bar?
He goes to lean on the bar. He says to his mate, so his mate Trigger is a bit of a dafty, right? And he says to his mate Trigger, because there's lassies in the bar, and he's like, act cool and all that, like, so we look
The
good.
lassies are like 43.
No, they're not, well,
Are they?
yeah, but so are they.
It's hard
right?
to tell in 80s. Everybody's in their 40s.
So basically, Del Boy and Trigger are wanting to have sex with these two women, right? And they're hoping to, obviously.
I
Well,
didn't read any of this into my viewing.
well, they're wanting to. I'm not talking about like ultimately. They're wanting to have relationships with these women. They're both single men, and so they're standing there. And Del Boy says to Trigger, just act cool. And then so Del Boy, in acting cool, he goes to lean on the bar. But the problem is, before Del Boy says that, there's a barmaid, right? And
Before he says what? Go back a bit, I'm lost.
Before he says lean on the before Del Boy says act cool, right? Just kind of around about the same time as he says act cool. Del Boy, there's a woman that's working in the bar. She's a barmaid, right? And she's probably like working
How
part
did they get
time.
this done before Last Orders?
Well, she's probably working. A lot of people had to. The 80s were like, but a lot of people need to work a couple of jobs, and it was a hard time for everybody.
Boy himself, he's like
He was hustling.
He's hustling 24/7.
He was grafting. He had a
That's what I thought was going on. I thought he saw a deal or something with these lassies because he's got some fucking hairspray. He's got a load of hairspray in his garage.
Well, it could have been that. I don't know. It was more just whatever his angle was. He was wanting to impress these women.
He's definitely wanting to put his best foot forward.
So this woman behind the bar, right now, her perspective on it is this: she's obviously went to herself, I need to go somewhere else, right? I need to go out and get the glasses or something. So she's went and opened up the bar, right? And unfortunately, that's right before Del Boy leans on it and he falls. But he falls down and then he hurts himself. But it's fucking brilliant. But see, around about 1985, there was also another amazing bit, Only Fools and Horses, that I remember. And it was when Del Boy and his brother Rodney and his granda, this might have been earlier in 85, so I hope I've no time slipped here. They're fixing a chandelier. And they're trying to they're unscrewing the chandelier in this big corridor, right?
How did they get a job on that?
I don't know. The two of them are above and they're unscrewing it. Now, there's no woman, they're not trying to impress any woman. This is just them doing their job, right? And their job is to remove this chandelier, to unscrew this chandelier. So they're unscrewing this chandelier up the top. Now, downstairs, I think it's one of them's upstairs unscrewing it, right? And two of them.
Have they ever done this before? Because I thought he sold like stereos and sex dolls.
Aye, but I can't remember why they ended up doing this. They probably just said, like I said, in the 1980s, this is Thatcher. This is
about Only Fools and Horses. It really needs to be about 90 minutes long an episode so you can get all the information done.
It's Thatcher. It's the miners' strike. It's the struggle. It's the Falklands. It's all of that. And so here was them trying to unscrew the chandelier, and the upshot is
she's in power at this time as well. Remember that she, who will not be named, is in power at this time, and this all suits her.
Thatcher.
This all suits her.
Thatcher.
All this unrest and fear and violence. This all suits her.
They fucking broke the chandelier, didn't they?
They broke it.
They just dropped it.
Surely you could see that a mile away.
And there was this other one, right? Trigger had this broom, right? And he went, it's the same broom I've had for 40 years, and they were like, how can it be the same broom? He says it is. He says, I've changed the tap of the broom and the bottom of the broom. I've changed all the bits of the broom, but it's the same one. And they were all like, it's different now.
I liked that bit because I don't think I've seen that one, so that was good to see. That was quite entertaining. 1st of June, more than 300 people have been arrested after an attempt by police to prevent a convoy of hippies reaching Stonehenge, led to a violent confrontation. This all suits her.
14 Game for a Laugh. Game for a Laugh was Jeremy Beadle. Was Jeremy Beadle doing the prankies before?
Oh, that's like the first time like prank stuff has been on British telly. Oh, that was
Jeremy Beadle was a TV presenter who was known for pranks, but the main thing we all talked about in school about Jeremy Beadle was the fact that he had a wee horn. One of his horns was wee.
No, he's got a wee willy. Jeremy Beadle. But in the other horn, it's big.
There we go. That's thumbs up.
Can't say
joke.
stuff like that. You can't make jokes like
13, Fresh Fields, which was a sitcom. 12 was the Royal Night of 100 Stars, which was some Jimmy Tarbuck.
100 famous people? That'll
100 famous people. 11 was World Championship Boxing, probably McGuigan. 10 was Crossroads. 9 was That's Life.
Right, okay.
Is that the music?
I thought I knew the music, but I don't
I've
recognise
got
that.
Crisis of Confidence. Is that the music for That's Life? Boom. Is that
It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like an
what the
Amiga
fuck am I
game or
singing? Right.
Boom.
Hey, number 82, Ronnie's. Now we're getting into the thicket.
Oh, brilliant.
Number 7, It'll Be All Right in the Night. Dennis Norden presenting a load of bloopers.
So a lot of like entertainment and comedy and stuff like that in the top 10.
Ryan, I can tell you right now what my favourite blooper
About
is.
to become famous as well.
What my favourite blooper is that was ever shown in It'll Be All Right in the Night, and what it is an American guy who's presenting a thing, and the director's saying to him, "Don't move your head," when he's talking, and he's like, but when he's saying, "Hey, can he stop moving his head?" and the director's getting him into trouble.
He's just losing his temper.
Let's try and find out, Ryan.
3, Mark.
Not one thing. Action.
No, it's one thing.
Don't you tell you're shaking your head. I don't want you to look straight ahead.
Like I said, not one thing.
Ahead. Now, Dan, come on.
Number 6, is Prince and Princess of Wales talk to Alistair Burnett. Number 5. Why? I don't know, because I had to check and go, it wasn't the Royal Wedding, was it? Royal Wedding was years before, so I don't know what they're talking about.
Like, who gives a fuck what they're saying? But
Whoa, hey. Getting controversial now. Getting controversial.
Both did, I don't know.
Hmm?
Oh no, one of them's the king.
No yet.
One of them's the king.
5, Last of the Summer Wine. Compo.
5? Fuck.
5, Compo, Clegg and Foggy, I believe.
I like Last of the Summer Wine, but number 5.
Number 4, Open All Hours.
Well, yeah, definitely classic.
Open All Hours. If any of you have never seen Ronnie Barker, not the new version of Open All Hours, which is a sitcom that stars the actor for the Queen's Bodyguard, who was also played Del Boy in Only Fools and Horses. Watch Ronnie Barker's Open All Hours for early 80s, you'll love it. 3 is Wish You Were Here, which is a holiday programme. Remember that?
Vaguely.
They would go abroad. And number 2, Coronation Street. And number 1,
EastEnders.
there we go, EastEnders.
Instant top of the charts for EastEnders. Very popular right for the get-go, isn't it?
It is a very, very popular.
So people like to mostly stay in and have a laugh and go on their holidays, it seems, in the 1980s. Is that what they're up to? Oh, and go on riots. And get banned for things.
And also, yeah, I think there was just a lot of. I think people were quite horny in the 1980s.
Not as much today, and the blackouts and stuff, and
Aye.
the bin men when they left in the bins. I don't know why that's a reason to have a shag, because the bin's only getting picked up. But,
Do you remember Little Computer People?
oh, I don't know, you're freaking me out. What do you mean?
So Little Computer People was a Commodore 64 piece of software. You can't really call it a game. It was a Commodore 64 piece of software where, and this will be of interest to the people at Guft Industries, because I think this is kind of up their street.
This is Sue McHugh at Activision headquarters in Mountain View, California, with a TV12 news exclusive. We have learned that an Activision research team has made contact with tiny beings who live inside computers. The researchers are currently studying the culture of approximately 12 different subjects. Each looks and behaves somewhat differently, but all exhibit the basic need to eat, drink, and sleep. They also like to read, listen to music, and talk on the telephone.
We still don't understand their spoken speech, but we had to figure out a way to communicate with them. So we hooked up a little typewriter in the house, and with all their experience with word processors in computers, we found that they could type to us in English.
The researchers also believe the computer creatures learned music from the countless computer music programs, as most are able to play the piano, though music styles vary widely. Activision has learned that the little computer people have an aptitude for playing games.
Because so many games are played on computers that, in fact, they may be able to play games, and we found that to be true as well. We now have several little guys that we're playing games with, poker, things like that. Additionally, we put in a mechanical arm that comes from behind the lower staircase, and we can actually pat them on the back of their head, and that really seems to quicken their emotion towards making them very happy.
Activision has received thousands of calls from computer owners trying to confirm rumors about the discovery of the little computer people. In response to those demands, Activision has announced plans to make a commercial product available in September for Commodore computer owners, and in October for Apple computer owners, so they can all meet the little people living in their computers. This is Sue McHugh reporting.
You load up this software and there's a house on screen, and then you just watch this house. There's nothing happening. It's just a house, rooms, living room, kitchen, all of that. You can't see anything. And then, wait a minute, and then after about 3 minutes, so you're watching a screen, and suddenly you can see your wee man. You can see your wee man pops out. And then you can control your wee man.
Robot.
Well, yeah.
Just be careful.
You can control your wee man. No, I'm just playing with you. It was actually a life simulator. Your wee man in this house was obviously a digital wee man. I wasn't actually talking about your penis. And this digital wee man is walking around this house, and you can type in instructions. You need to feed him.
This is text as well to control?
Yeah, but you type in things like have your dinner, or answer phone. The phone will ring, answer phone. He goes on the phone, and you see him picking up the phone. You see the wee man walks over. He sits down in a chair. He goes like, he's got a phone beside him, big rotary phone, right? Picks up a phone and he goes like, wham, wham, that's what he talks. Wham, 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 wham,
You had to talk, because of modems, you had to talk like that on your phone.
Aye, maybe he was talking to the internet. Wham, wham, wham. And then he's got a dog. He's got to tell him to go and feed his dog. You've got to tell him, you can tell him to put music on and he'll have a wee dance. You can tell him to go on a typewriter and do a wee bit of writing, and you're just kind of looking after him. And if you walk away from the computer and leave him, he'll just potter about doing stuff. And this was something that of all the software I loaded up into my Commodore 64 when I was a wee guy, this was one. If I was doing something else in the room, I would load up little computer people first and just let it play out, on the screen. You never heard of that?
No, never heard it. Wow. Are you sure it's available on Spectrum? Or maybe they didn't have access to it.
Oh, let me have a think now.
Sounds a bit highfalutin for the Spectrum. Well,
yeah.
that's not true.
Maybe the Spectrum would not have been capable of producing showing you your wee man like that.
I'm taken aback by a lot of the things that I've seen on Spectrum since doing CVXX. It's a fucking V. The variation in the games, but also like the inventiveness of them, I'm like really impressed by. It's not C64 definitely prettifies things, but the craft of making the games is still there on the Spectrum. That impressive. A lot of the games,
definitely.
A lot of the games, like you wouldn't want to spend too much time playing. Like gameplay was something that took it a wee bit longer to kind of develop and become more a priority, but
it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because
the different directions that the games go in and the different ideas that they're bringing, it's incredible.
It's an
Have you ever heard of Eye of the Mask?
Eye of the Mask?
Eye of the Mask.
No, I've never heard of that. A Spectrum game?
Yeah, you play as a 2D character, but the world that you're going through is kind of an attempt at 3D, but it's stunning looking. It's really stunning.
Eye of the Mask.
Spectrum. 48K vector graphics. Know your gaming. Just to clarify for the non-gamers who are listening, Vector Graphics isn't a guy. He's no the guy that made the game. Vector Graphics is like a type of... I don't know what Vector Graphics are. I love the colours in this. I think it's got the maximum amount of colours that a Spectrum can handle. I forget how many that is. It's like 8 or 10 or something. I need to be honest, I'm having a lot of trouble. You're in a maze and you're trying to collect robot parts in this game, but I'll be honest with you, I'm trying to hold back a bit of a panic attack. Does this really need to be this intense?
It's that thing about how people talk about, does this game still stand up today, or does it still, you know what I mean? People say, does it still stand up? And I always kind of think to myself, well, what does that really mean? Because obviously, when you play these games today, you play it with certain expectations. So it's standing up. I'm not even really sure what people mean by that when they say it.
I don't think people realise what expectations they have of games as well now, because what I played Sweevo's World,
Right.
and I realised playing Sweevo's World that it doesn't have an end. You're just going to die, and you'll have a score when you die, and you want to beat the score, because that was still a thing. Games, like, there didn't have to be an end. It was just a thing that that looked different, and you played with the thing. Like you played with.
I would argue though that with a lot of these games, like these old Spectrum games and old Commodore 64 games that we're playing again now and rediscovering, right, and really enjoying them, the thing that they all share is that they all have something mechanically happening in them, like something genuinely happening mechanically in them. And it's a weird thing because I can't even remember what it was I was playing, but I was playing one of these old games. I think it was a Spectrum game on the Spectrum Next I was playing. And then I stuck on, it wasn't an Assassin's Creed, but it was something, you know, like one of these games now, which is like Assassin's Creed, one of these big budget ones, where you kind of you start playing it and you go, I'm really just moving forward here. Like all I'm really doing is moving forward and pressing a couple of buttons.
This is a time slip, and I will.
I think we're allowed this one though.
Fess up to a time slip that I did have a go at Hellblade 2.
Right.
And I thought it was awful. Like just how little interaction I was having with the beautiful images that were on screen, but how little I was actually doing.
Well, I was playing. What's the Spectrum game you really like? That's oh my god. That's called Penetrator, is that it?
Yeah, Penetrator.
So I'd been playing that.
But that's what, when you were talking about what games stand up, that's automatically what the type of thing that I would choose. Like I would choose, like, what do I still like to play? What gameplay survives? And it's things like Penetrator and Chucky Egg.
Yeah, all that stuff. What stands up? Even something that's a wee bit more kind of abstract than a shoot 'em up or a platform game. Something like Paradroid, for example, which is an Andrew Braybrook game for 85, I think. And Paradroid's a Commodore 64 game. You ever played that Commodore 64 game where you're a kind of robot and you can possess other robots and stuff? You're kind of ranking up so you can get to other levels in the game. And when you play something like that, and there's kind of so much happening mechanically, and then, you know, like you say, you put on something like Hellblade 2, you're going, I'm fucking doing nothing here compared to what I was doing on this Commodore 64 game for 1985.
Yeah. Marsport. I don't think they should have made that one word. It should have been Marsport. It's called Marsport, and it's a Gargoyle Games game, and you'll see similarities between this and like the Tir na Nog style of turning your character around. You've got a plot in this game about a force field, and you need to find plans to disable a force field, but it's so difficult and confusing that not a single one of you will ever play it. No loading bars in 1985, it's just you're hoping for the best that nothing's crashed. But this is an Atari game, it's Starquake on the Atari. Bubble Bus made it. Might be a guy, Bubble Bus might be the guy's name. Starquake by Bubble Bus and Stephen Crow. It is quite an attractive and cosy little affair, but not too dissimilar for quite a lot of games that I've already played. I like the setup, I like the design there. I'm not that mad keen on the chunkiness of the graphics and how it feels like so many other things that I've played. It has a really great variety of sheets in it, but not too many colours. I'm torn because the game's okay, like so many other Atari games it's okay, but really Atari gamers are really getting fleeced. They should jump out of the Spectrum where things are a lot more interesting. You know, for games for adults, no just I honestly couldn't even tell you what that is at home there. What am I? Don't tell Rab, but I'm having a wee sneaky, dirty look at the new Saboteur game that's on C64. Christ, it's fucking sexy. There's so many more colours, and I'm so impressed by how quick the animation is. You turn round and it doesn't take 3.5 minutes to happen like it does on a Spectrum. And the detail, you actually feel like a Saboteur. It's one of the coolest gaming experiences I think I've had to date. I don't think it matters how much they're charging for this game, you just need to buy it. Ultima have brought out Nightshade in 1985, 1 year on for Night Lore. But in Nightshade, it is isometric,
but there's so much more happening. It's so busy that the atmosphere that made Night Lore what it is, the masterpiece, is nowhere to be seen. There's no eeriness to be had in this noisy, busy BAMFest. Just so disappointing to see a games company cashing in like this. I really hope that this isn't something that we see repeated in the future in the games industry. I'm sure it won't be.
I think we should press on and talk about a television show. Do you think?
Yes, in the television show we've decided a lot of great TV shows on in 1985, as obviously we've discussed. But the
How many times have we mentioned Guft in this episode? Because we have got
keep a track of that. I'll try and mention them a few times here.
Put your hand up.
We are going to take a look at a soap opera called Crossroads.
I have put in a lot of overtime lately.
For which you've been paid?
I have a life of my own to lead. It's not just a question of the money.
It's never just a question of the money, Miranda, for those who've always had enough.
My work is very important to me. I have tried to prove that to you.
All right. I'll tell you what I'll do. You can have your day off, but I shall expect a favor in return from you. Agreed?
Agreed.
The reason why we wanted to look at this was because Crossroads is something that was kind of an ever-present in British life for a long time. Much like what Guft is. Guft has been around for a long time as well.
You just didn't know about it, but they have been around for an awful long time. Crossroads, the theme tune, to anybody of our generation, you'll go, oh, that'll take you back and you'll have memories. See the show itself.
Can I sing the wee bit of the theme tune?
You've got that stuck.
It's fucking,
I don't know what it is.
Bow, 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 bow. That's good, man. It's good. Classic. It's a great theme. And by the way, I would just like to point out, obviously, big friend of the show, Paul McCartney, his band Wings, who, listen, I'm going to say it, and I know that
actually, are you sure that isn't Paul McCartney?
That's not. That way? No, that's not McCartney there. McCartney's a vegetarian, remember. I would just like to say that, and everybody at Guft agrees with me here, right? And because we had a conversation about this at the seminar, having tea and biscuits, and we were talking about this, and I said, this might be controversial, but I prefer Wings to the Beatles. I said it in front of him. I prefer Wings to the Beatles. And they, to a man and to a woman and to the other things that were there, they agreed that they preferred Wings to the Beatles. You know, I'm a massive Wings fan. And Wings and their album Venus and Mars covered the Crossroads theme. That's how good the Crossroads theme is that Paul McCartney went, I'm going to do a cover version. We're covering
play that bit, or did they play
the theme? They play the whole theme, but it's great. It's what really you should listen to. It's really good.
Okay.
Anyway, Crossroads is a soap opera that ran from 1964 up to 1988. So we have watched the kind of latter days, it's starting to sunset. And one of the reasons why we wanted to pick Crossroads as well, Ryan, and you'll agree with me here, is because in 1985, in that period, Crossroads featured a character who was an ever-present in the cultural conversation of that landscape in 1985, and that character was I would like to introduce, one Mr.
Don't do any impressions.
I'm not doing any impressions. One Mr. called by the name of Mr. Benny from Crossroads.
It's just Benny. It's not Mr. Benny. Although he might describe himself as Mr. Benny. So the Crossroads theme comes up like the title screen, and you're right, this is the latter day version of Crossroads, but I'm really taken aback, I think, a wee bit by the production value, I think, of the show straight away.
In what sense?
Well, the entire title sequence, which is about 40-50 seconds long, is just one Austin Maestro, I think, driving around the motorway on the way to Crossroads Motel.
Yeah, just to clarify, it's about a motel, Crossroads Motel. So actually the opening titles were, I would just like to thank Guff for this water, by the way. Gin and juice up all times to the Gufters. Listen,
98% pure Guft water.
it's about a motel. What do you want in the opening titles? Obviously, a motel is all about a car travelling to a place. What are you looking for?
In the title sequence, I also wrote down the note, because I was kind of taken aback by this, that it was even mentioned that this show is devised by, and I didn't write the two names down, but it's devised by two people. So it's been running for like years and years and years.
Yeah.
But it's devised by these two people. And throughout the episodes that I watched, when people are like talking about business deals and like the lifestyles that they're running, I'm having to think to myself, who did devise this? This is about a hotel on a motorway, isn't it? That's right. Okay.
Can I shock you?
Please do.
I really enjoyed watching these episodes of Crossroads. I don't know what it was. I've had a bit of Guftal, excuse me here, a bit of a strange week. Just people know well in the house, and just kind of drama going on. I'm a bit stressed out about career stuff and a bit stressed out about work. And I watched these two episodes of Crossroads, and I felt very calmed by them. I actually really quite enjoyed them. Almost like how kind of boring it was. Like, no, and I don't mean boring, or how like, because you watch a soap opera these days and it's like everybody's getting murdered, or they've buried something under somewhere, or somebody's found out that somebody's been assaulted or something. And genuinely, Crossroads was like, can we get this nice boy a job?
Could we have a coffee? Do you want to have a coffee? Should everybody have a coffee?
Like, genuinely,
let's phone a coffee.
Let's have a nice dinner. Will we have a nice dinner and we'll invite... Oh, they've invited her? Okay. No big drama happened. So just to fill you in, right, the episodes we watched, David Hunter and Barbara Hunter, who ran Crossroads for a while, were leaving behind Adam Chance, who's the motel manager, and Jill, who's his missus, right? And so there was a kind of changing of the guard thing. They'd sold to a conglomerate. Now, I just like to specify here, when we talk about a conglomerate in Crossroads, we are not talking about Guft.
No.
Guft have no interest in motel chains. Their ambitions are far more profound, I would say.
Yeah.
But what I would say, there was a conglomerate, Ryan, that was involved in taking over, and so
it's never mentioned in Crossroads that this is like a chain of motel.
No,
it's just one motel.
In the Midlands, in the Midlands
of England, and a massive conglomerate has decided, who does Benny work for? We need to own the company that Benny works for.
Aye.
So they're buying it.
Benny is a character who was in these couple of episodes we watched, and Benny, obviously we knew him when we were guys as well. Benny was a guy who wore a woolly hat and a big kind of jacket, a big coat, and he was he obviously had, how would I put it? Like, so what I'm going to say is, see, the best way I think of dealing with this.
I work in care, so I've got all this help that I could give you, but I'm not giving you any help. I want to see how this goes.
I think so. How I would describe Benny is, obviously in the parlance of the times, there was a different attitude to these things. But how I would describe it, what I mean is, Benny was, like, in today's, like, the way I would describe it today, folks, is obviously we have to be, I would just like to express that it's important to be very aware and comfortable and have an awareness of these things. And, I would just like to apologise for the things that I have said. And, I mean, what I would say, let me tell you something.
You haven't said that.
I was some kid.
4 minutes into the first episode that we watched, everybody goes, like you were saying, they actually say they're going for a lovely chummy meal.
A chummy meal.
Chummy meal.
Good idea.
Sort of past, present and future get together.
Oh, a lovely chummy meal.
Why not? Kath, I'll be back for one of those in a minute.
And you know what? It was a chummy meal.
It was. It was mostly cordial.
See in a soap opera these days, see if somebody goes, you know what? Let's have a lovely chummy meal. You think to yourself, well, no, that's not going to be a fucking chummy meal. Somebody's going to pull a gun out or something like that, right? But no in Crossroads. See if somebody says they're going for a chummy meal, it's going to be very chummy indeed. And I think that was what was bringing me pleasure. was the fact I was like, nothing much happens here.
That's because they can't afford anything to happen.
Well, but why would you want? See, when you come home for your work and you put something on to watch on the telly, or you've ran your way into school, or you're looking after your sick granny.
EastEnders is the #1 show, and everybody's getting stabbed every week on it.
I know, but I just kind of
vomiting on each other. I've not seen it in years, but I'm assuming that's what they're up to.
I just kind of feel like there was something very calming about it. Sorry, carry on if you get some more notes there.
I have. I've written down something that I was confused by, because do you remember the interior designer guy that comes in? He's an arsehole.
BB, his name is.
Yeah, he's an arsehole. He comes in and he's like being all snooty about how Crossroads is looking. But later on in the episode, they come back after an ad break and Benny's in having an interview with the new manageress at Crossroads. But the fucking interior design guy's sitting being a smart arse while Benny's in doing his interview, putting him off and stuff like that as well. Like, no helping, being an arsehole.
There was
Benny.
a slight character issue there.
Got his things.
A slight character issue there, because this woman who was doing the interview for Benny, her character was that she was super professional and that she worked hard, she was up early, but she was super professional. No very professional having an interior designer and slagging off Benny.
No.
During you know what I mean?
I thought it was at order.
What I will say as well, though, is that I don't think that the budget limitations of Crossroads were necessarily completely evident in the production in terms of set design, camera work, or anything like that.
They were talking a good game with the pattern that they were coming out with.
Yeah, but
where they're going on holiday and how many boats they've got and all that.
And where are you off to?
Breath of fresh air. I find the smell in here a little off-putting.
I'll have you know my perfume costs 45 quid a bottle.
Fancy. You know, there's a line in Shakespeare about all the perfumes of Arabia not covering up the stench of something or other. I tell you what, love, 45 quid's worth ain't doing the trick neither.
I think there's a time issue. You can see the budget is that there was a time issue. In Crossroads, they didn't have the opportunity, I think, to do loads of retakes, because there was a commonality between the two episodes that I don't know if you noticed, and that was slight, very slight, almost imperceptible, but when you're keen cultural commentators like ourselves, you notice it, very slight hesitations and fumbles in lines. And I'm talking about sometimes you go, oh, I think she forgot that character's name there. For a split second, you're almost imperceptible, but just wee fumbles.
There's an older guy as well who is particularly fluffy with his lines, particularly, but they just roll with it.
He's a wee bit fluffy, he's a wee bit woolly around the edges with his lines, but they just kind of go, you know what, we're not at the fucking time to do this again, let's keep going. And I think actually
they'll talk about it later in the pub when they're done, and they'll go, that's just realism, isn't it? It's just realism. But bringing a bit of realism in the experience.
I think there's
4 in the afternoon they're having their drinks.
I think there's an argument to that though, because I genuinely do sometimes forget people's names when I'm talking to them, you know what I mean? Like, no, I've known you for a long time, but if it was something I was working with.
This old guy in Crossroads was a good 5 or 10 years older than you.
Aye. So you're going to forget things sometimes. And I was noticing these wee fumbles, and it was increasing the charm of the thing. I was very charmed by it.
Yeah, it's cosy. It's nice and cosy. I've also written down, because again, we're talking about how was this conceived? Like, what I'm really intrigued by how they came up with this idea and how successful the idea has become. But Barbara, before she was leaving, was talking about how she was worried about what was going to happen to Crossroads and whether the new management style was going to protect the traditional values of Crossroads. the motel service station thing that she runs.
My main problem, the thing that concerns me most about Mrs. Freeman, is that she's going to stop Crossroads being about what it always used to be about and make it all about success and upward mobility.
Hard-necked business deals.
Well, yes, exactly.
But it's a weird thing, in it though, because it's almost like,
and it's not like it's like a 400 room place. It looks like there's maybe 15, 20 people living there.
I can almost guarantee.
I don't want to poke holes in it.
I can almost guarantee, guys at home, right, and ladies and gentlemen, this has never been said about Crossroads before, ever, right? But I think there was a kind of meta-textual thing happening in these episodes where, when they were expressing concerns about the changes that were coming to Crossroads Motel, I think they were talking as much about the changing of the guard with performers and characters than the actual textual stuff that was happening, you know. This is all quite advanced storytelling stuff. I advise you to pick up the book Story by Robert McKee if you want to dig into a little bit more of this. But what I was struck by how posh Adam Chance sounded when it started. See, when I watched the first one, I was like, wow, everybody's much posher here than I expected. Because you're used to in soap operas in the UK, you're used to everybody being working class Cockney, working class Northern, working class Scottish, River City, right?
That is literally the way it works in show casting, though. It's like income to accent. There's an income to accent ratio. Shit income, shit accent. Posh accent, good income.
Because you had all the bosses in the room at the start, kind of, and they were all kind of like, okay, let's have a little cup of coffee then, all talking like that. And I was thinking, oh God, is this what Crossroads was like? And then when you cut outside and it's the woman that works in the restaurant or whatever, then they're all like, oh, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And that's, you know, I just found that quite, because you know what, it was the time, it's like you said, the woman who will not be named, Thatcher, she was... It does play into her horns, all that stuff. You know what I mean? She turned the whole fucking country into a Benny, is the way you can look at it, really. I've got a wee bit of a fact about Benny here. Now, Benny was just...
Does he have a son?
How would you describe Benny? He was just a developmental...
He had learning difficulties.
Issues, right? He had learning difficulties. A fucking sweetheart of a guy, right?
But he didn't really. It was just an actor doing an impression of somebody who had learning difficulties.
Obviously. But because of this, and I don't want you to think, by the way, that this was some extreme grotesque performance either. It wasn't.
No, he's lovable,
and it's actually I would say quite a gentle treatment of someone who has the kind of issues. So it wasn't like some kind of, and there was a lot of kind of grotesque.
Well, the issue in the episode is that Benny. Well, we don't know quite where he's been. I didn't watch earlier episodes, but he's been somewhere, Benny, and he's a bit doing his luck and he needs a job. So the issue in the episode is the old manageress wants to help Benny, and the rest of the staff want to help Benny. So it's handled well. Like he's included and helped. And
they don't. There's nobody going, you know, saying anything derogatory about him or anything. I think it was, you know, obviously we've not seen
initially that new manageress, the workaholic lassie, said he wouldn't fit in.
Yeah, there's a bit of that.
Then they talk her in.
There's a bit of that. I wonder if the reason why he was so kind of popular with Wayne's Benny was because, like, he does have that childlike thing. He's reading a dandy at one point, for example, and I wonder if that's because this was the blow up character of Crossroads. I can't believe that we're sitting here talking about Crossroads.
This is what was happening in the UK in 1995.
This was what was happening.
Aside for the rioting and the hooliganism and all that, Ringo was a granddad and
Benny was. Now, let me talk about the British Army.
Oh, finally.
During the Falklands War, right, the British Army called and I found this through my research, called the Falkland Islanders, right, who they saw in the Falklands when they were on the islands during the war. They called them Bennies, the Falkland Islanders. Because of Crossroads. And this was found out, this was kind of made public, that they, in a derogatory sense, called the Falkland Islanders Bennies, right? And the British Army, the generals and the government and all that stamped down it and went, you will not be fucking calling them Bennies anymore, right? And so instead they had a new nickname for the Falkland Islanders, right? And it was Stills. They called them Stills, which stood for Still Bennies. No, obviously that's fucking outrageous, right? But I read this research and I was like, well, that just sums up the British Army for you. But also, terrible.
But also it's her, doesn't it? Also it's her agenda.
This is it, you know what I mean?
Probably need to do the deaths in a minute.
But also, let me tell you one more thing, Ryan, right? Before we kind of conclude this. One of the things that struck me about Benny was that...
does he have a surname?
Oh, he does have a... I can't remember what it is. But I still don't think we've made a great deal of progress, even when you think of how many years down the line we are, I don't think we've made a great deal of progress in terms of representing people who.
Don't get me started, mate. Don't get me started.
There we go.
Don't get me started.
Ryan does work in care.
It's
And by the
only
way,
possible.
can I just say, I'm going to say this for real this time. Can we just have a fucking round of applause for Ryan for doing something meaningful with his life?
Listen, I would normally wouldn't be able to handle something like that, somebody applauding for me, but I actually think I'm due it.
He does
I do
fucking
think I'm
deserve it.
due
I've
I do
heard
actually
some
deserve
of the stories, by the way, and he
it.
deserves
You
applause.
can only pay that work as badly as it's paid if the whole fucking society goes, you know what, I don't want to look at it. I'm going to take that away from me and put it somewhere
There we
else.
go.
I don't need to fucking look at it.
There we
You
go.
should all be fucking ashamed of yourselves.
Plays into all plays into her horns as
But
well.
enjoy your telly shows and your fucking Audis or whatever.
See, before you just quickly.
There's a big piece on Ollie, Big Ollie.
Ollie Reid.
Yeah,
Hey, bit of gin and-
he's there.
Bit of gin and juice for Big Ollie, by the way. What a boy. And that's when men were men, by the way, and big fucking Ollie Reid was cutting about. See if he'd have heard a fucking.
He looks fucking hammered.
Let me tell you
even in
something,
these
Ryan.
pictures.
Let me tell you about the kind of man Ollie Reid was. See if Ollie Reid had been in a pub.
Drunk.
See if Ollie Reid had been in a pub, right, and he'd heard a fucking British Army soldier calling a Falkland Islander a Benny. Ollie Reid would have fucking stuck it up right on that soldier. He would have fucking leathered them. One more thing before we finish up. I need to talk about Gribbly's Day Out. Gribbly's Day Out was probably my favourite game in 1985. Gribbly's Day Out was a game by Andrew Braybrook, who we mentioned earlier with Paradroid. Same guy, right? It's a platforming game where you are Gribbly Grobbly, right? Don't laugh, right? You're Gribbly Grobbly, and obviously.
How British is that?
Listen, you're Gribbly Grobbly, right? And you're trying to find your Gribblets. And how do I describe Gribbly Grobbly? I mean, obviously the times have changed now. Things are a bit different back then. So what I would say about him was that he was
They had learning difficulties.
He bounced a rune. He bounced a rune on the map. You could fly a rune with him. The game was challenging. The game was fair. The game was fun. The Blabgorians were trying to eat your Gribblets, and Gribbly Grobbly just had to jump about and rescue all his wee babies, basically. And I just loved this game. I absolutely loved it. We'll show you a wee bit of footage, but I just want to say that I think it's one of the most underrated games in the Commodore 64. You don't hear a lot of people talking about Gribbly's Day Out. And when we talk about games that still stack up, Ryan, you will have a blast playing this game. You will have an absolute blast playing Gribbly's Day Out. So if you emulate or whatever you want to use, if you've got original hardware, you'll know about it already. Andrew Braybrook was on a killer run as well, by the way. He did Gribbly's Day Out, he did Paradroid, then he did Uridium. I mean, there's no much a better 3-game streak than that.
So, see, when I was capturing this, something happened to the audio, right? I don't know what happened. So, anyway, but I can remember what the audio is like. That's the title music. Boing, 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 beep. Whoa. Boing. Boing, boing. Anyway, this game's absolutely magic.
Let me tell you, Ryan.
While we're still talking
died?
games, a wee bit of time left just to mention international karate. No quite where we want it to be yet, but it's the beginning of the path to one of the classic games that exist since video games have been getting made. But international karate is, you can see it's starting. The animations are starting to.
The spermatozoa.
Yeah.
If you imagine the baby that is International Karate IK Plus isn't there yet.
Time slip.
Isn't there yet, but the cum has fired out of the shaft.
Yeah, sure. Let's do the deaths, Rob. Do you want to cue up some kind of song?
Yeah, okay.
Coming out your mouth. Now, we did most of the obituaries last episode, so I've got.
Listen, let me just.
Obviously, loads of people died that year, but yeah,
I'm ready to start. I'll do the theme for That's Life. Boom.
Brian Horlicks. Jetta Gowdell. No.
That's not, can't be right.
Mikhail Gromov. No. Ruben Rabinowitz.
These are British people.
Kenny Clark, a jazz drummer.
I know who Kenny Clark is. I had a wee bit of drums in actually.
Jesse Hibbs, film director. Henry Hathaway, another film director. Louis.
It just doesn't sound right. I don't think it is.
It's not the right thing.
I don't think it's the right.
I don't even recognise what you're doing.
Do you remember those a Dug in That's Life? It could say sausages. It would go. But they just moved it smooth. It would go because it was fucking raging about them doing this to it. That was it saying sausages.
I bet you it wasn't even me. One of the producers have like said it while it's.
When was the last time you listened to Doug saying sausages?
Good 30 years ago.
Because I remember it sounding like sausages. It doesn't fucking. It just sounds like. So it sounds like it's brutal, by the way.
Tell us what you have on a Thursday, Prince.
Yeah, what's yours, Skippy Prince? What?
You were reminding me of the puppets for Life Force there when you were doing that.
Listen, Matilda May, good on you, hen.
Are we done with the deaths? Is that us?
I think that's us. Thanks for watching CVXX.
That was 1985. I don't think we left it in it, did we?
That was 1985. Everything you need to know about 1985. Be back next episode for 1986. And let me tell you one more thing. Please spread the word about CVXX because this is a long, long journey into the future. No time slips. Listen, no more time slips. Please spread the word. Day to work, and big thanks to our street team for putting the flyers out and stuff like that. To Guft Industries, thanks so much for the seminar and for all the information. Thanks also for all the messages, all the phone calls during the night, and
keeping us keen, keeping us on the ball, keeping us alert,
keeping us on our toes. Do remember, if you are spreading the word, CVXX, you'll find V on your keyboard. Between which letters is V between on the keyboard?
It's close to. Oh fuck! It's fucking close to you.
I can't look at my. Anyway, that was CVXX. Ryan,
thanks for watching. Tell your stupid uncle to watch it as well.
It's been an absolute pleasure again. And listen, let me just lean out, shake your hand one more time. Let's give it up for Mr. Oliver Reed, for Benny from Crossroads, for Adam Chance for the Crossroads Motel, and of course Picard getting after that guy.
And then his face going all expanded.
I can see your fanny.